get started now. Good morning. I'm Deborah Bogar, facilitator for this one-hour NACD Urban and Community Conservation webinar on reaching out through urban agriculture conservation. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on NACD's website, along with the presentation PDFs for your future access. Everyone should be connected online to see the presentations, and you can access audio via your computer or by phone. Those directions were sent with your confirmation email. As the opening slide indicates, all lines are muted except for the speakers. I'll open the chat area after both of the presentations, so you can type in your questions and comments, and we'll take as many as we can. You might want to jot those down during the presentation. In this webinar system, the transitions will take a few seconds as the slides load, so don't worry that something's wrong with your computer. Our host, Ron Rohal, is not able to join us today. They've got high winds out there in western Pennsylvania, and it's messing with his connection. But on his behalf, I do want to thank our sole sponsor, Scott's Miracle Grow Foundation, for their support of these webinars. Today we have two presentations. Shelby Cohen is the Community Relations Coordinator for the Greenville County SWCD in South Carolina. Originally from the Tampa Bay area, Shelby has a master's in global sustainability, 3 years of teaching experience, and is an active farm volunteer and backyard grower. At the district, she leads their community education and outreach programs. Susie Kirshner is the programs manager at the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District in California. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and has been working at the RCD for 4 years. Her work at the district includes managing and overseeing the Sustainable Agriculture Program, the Regional Forest and Fire Capacity Grant, and the Special Projects Fund. And with that, Shelby, I'm going to load your slides. And when they come up on your screen, you can take it from there.
All right, thank you. All right, so today I'm sharing one of our newer and very exciting projects in Greenville called the Seed Library. So if you know anything about Greenville County, you'll know that it's actually one of the fastest growing counties east of the Mississippi. And with that, you know, we're urbanizing, we're losing green space that's essential, you know, for maintaining water quality, we're losing farmland that secures, you know, a robust local food system, and of course, habitat for pollinators and wildlife. So Seed Library is a program that we kind of use to connect with a community that's becoming more and more urban, and is, you know, as we do so, losing touch with a lot of our natural resources. So this is a partnership between us, the Greenville Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as the Greenville County Library System. You know, a seed library, it's all in the name. It only made sense to partner with the library system. It is located at one of their library branches called the Berea branch. This specific branch was chosen because it's actually located in a food desert, and so we wanted to do that there with that in mind. Our seed library is actually housed in an old card catalog. So it was the last card catalog that the Greenville County Library System even had, and it was just sitting in a basement at their main branch, and we kind of brought it back to life. And you'll see pictures of it in just a moment, but there are 60 drawers, and so therefore 60 varieties of different veggie, herbs, and flowers. So the Seed Library has a mission, and we aim to educate residents on sustainably growing food, flowers, and native plants, preserving biodiversity with both regional and heirloom varieties. We're aiming at restoring pollinator and wildlife habitat, We're focused on backyard conservation practices, so things like composting, harvesting rainwater, and other things. And then, of course, promoting healthy diets and food deserts. So we source seeds so we've only had this open since February of 2019. So before then, I contacted these organizations that you see on your screen, so Baker Creek Heirloom, High Mowing Organic, Seed Savers Exchange, So True Seed, and also Southern Seed Exposure. And they all gave me donations. And actually, I just applied for another round of donations this year, and again, they all were gracious enough to send me free seed. Slow Food Upstate, they've been a really great partner. They donate seeds every year that are on their Arc of Taste, which if you're familiar with that, those are seeds that at one point were at risk of extinction, and we're kind of revitalizing those. So you'll see the seed packets in a moment, but we include all the details. And when we get these donations, we work with our master gardeners as well as our library volunteers to help pack these seeds. So we get the full pack, and then we actually break them down into smaller packets of about between 5 and 10 seeds. So it's perfect for backyard growers. And the reason why So True Seed has that little asterisk is because I actually have a wholesale account with them, and they're located in Asheville, so right over the border in North Carolina. And luckily, whenever gaps arise that, if there's an eggplant emergency and I need to get more eggplant seed, I'm able to get them at a very good price thanks to my wholesale relationship with them. So, okay, so opening day, as I said, was February 23rd, 2019. So there you can see in that picture, that is our seed library card catalog. So that day, we were like, hey, we'll be really excited if 50 people come. That will be a success. Well, we started at 10, we were aimed to start at 10 a.m. to kick off, and at 9:45, I had to go grab the library director and say, hey, this is probably a fire hazard. We should probably get going, because there were so many people in the room. And so we had a book sale with gardening books. We had food, and you can see the crowd there. That morning, the door count was it was around 400 people who came on opening day to get their 10 free seed packs. So you can see the lines, you can see the room. We had different activities. This gentleman was teaching the other guys about square foot gardening method. So it was just really popular, more popular than we could have ever imagined. So how does it work? So as you can see, we have these checkout forms. And so those forms, they are laminated sheets of paper that live on top of the seed library. And you take your library card, and then you can get up to 10 seed packets. So you're able to open a drawer, go through, and, for example, our tomato drawer, it'll have, 5 different varieties of tomatoes in it. So you go through, you choose your 10, and then you mark it off on this seed checkout form. And then you take that up to the checkout desk, and they document that information, and I'll show you in our shared spreadsheet. So again, we can know what we have left and prioritize packing certain varieties, and then that's it. You take them home. So every time you come to the library, you can get up to 10 free seed packets. So a great little tool that we've designed for the seed library is a Greenville growing guide. So this guide, it's a 6-page booklet, and it has, as you can see, all of the plant type on the left-hand side, and then we've gone across the top with different months, and those brown squares indicate when you can plant seed outside, and then the blue ones indicate when you should start them inside. And so this is a great way to kind of take out the intimidation factor of growing food. And we do everything in the square foot method. It's less math, it's less intimidating, and folks seem to really like it. So this booklet is, again, a free resource that lives there. So people can kind of look at that, and they can see what date it is, and then they can decide which 10 packets they like based on what planting time it is. And then we also have this available online in a PDF as well. So in conjunction with the seed library, we also do monthly workshops. So in 2019, we did square foot gardening, hydroponic, container growing, and that actually is the photo from the right hand side that you see there. And just something to note is that working with community partners has made this way more doable. So for example, one of our commissioners owned a Kilwins, and so she donated, those are actually old ice cream, that's what ice cream was delivered in, and so it's food grade plastic, and so she saved a bunch for me and donated them to me. And then I went to our local compost company, and they donated compost, and then a local nursery also donated a potting mix, and they mixed everything. So what you see there was all donated, and the plants themselves, we actually grew in office in our own grow station. Farm Bureau gave me a $500 grant, and with that, I bought a grow station. So we actually started all of those from seed in our office, and so even doing a workshop like container growing, if you reach out to your community, you can do it with, you know, little to no money. So you can see the other workshops. We had edible landscaping, again, the Arc of Taste focusing on those heirloom varieties. We had an author come in who focuses on cooking regional food. We had a former NASA guy come in and talk about seeds in space. We did soil health. We did seed swap, and then we actually made gifts from the garden in December. We actually took dried okra pods and painted them, and that was really popular. And then in this year, in 2020, we are going to have workshops on seed saving, using herbs medicinally, green infrastructure, composting, and a whole lot more. So as I said earlier, when they check out, this is how we keep track. So we have a shared spreadsheet with the library. And so on the right-hand side, that is like the total number of packets that are in there. And then the librarians are able to just add numbers to the checkout. And then that middle section that says packets remaining, that auto-populates. So, you know, I'm able to look and say, oh, ground cherries only have 13 left, and I can prioritize that and make sure that my volunteers can help me get that packed quickly. And the libraries come up with all sorts of cool charts to track the popularity of the program as well. So our newest expansion of the seed library is a pop-up seed library. Again, we live in a big county. We have over 500,000 people here, and the seed library is only at one branch. So that would be a common theme, that when we would promote the seed library at Berea, or we'd be out in the community talking to folks, the feedback we kept getting is, hey, when's, you know, a really far for me to get to. It's really challenging for me to get to Berea. And so we said, okay, well, how can we bring it to them without having a whole card catalog? And so this was our answer. We have a bunch of these little containers. We got 4, and this is all thanks to a grant that I actually secured with Duke Energy. So thanks to Duke Energy, we are going to be doing a pop-up seed library, and I know it's hard to tell the size of that, but that little container can fit 750 of our little packets, which you can see our personalized packets there, and how we label everything. So in 2020, we're going to be going to every single library branch, and there are 12 total. And then we're going to be going with the county bookmobile that serves the rural areas of our county. So we'll be teaming up with them, and then of course we're going to go to all the farmers markets, and really just anyone who has a request. You know, we're going to try and show up at those. So when it comes to program costs, these are the main costs that we have. So the growing guides, that booklet, they come out to about 88 cents each. The customized printed seed packets that you just saw on the last slide, those are about 8 cents each, and they can reduce if you buy larger quantities, of course. And then the wholesale seeds, when I do need to buy them, are about $1.25 a packet. So, you know, a lot of districts that I've talked to here in South Carolina are interested in, hey, well, we love that program, but how can we minimize the cost or time? Like if you don't have the volunteer space. So some of the ideas that we have are doing fewer seed varieties, right? So we have 60. So it's a lot more to keep up with. If you can find smaller drawers, my little pop-up, for example, that can fit 18 varieties. So by doing fewer seed varieties, you're going to minimize that cost and time. If you wanted to make a growing guide specific to your region, you could be smart and just do one page, like front and back. And that way you could print them in-house, or you could just have it online only, and that reduces your cost entirely. You could do fewer checkouts per person per visit. So again, we're doing 10 per person, and you could reduce that down to 5 or something else to kind of keep your stock stocked. You could do pop-ups only. So rather than having a permanent location that you constantly have to look after, you could just make sure it's stocked when you're going to specific places. You can save seed with your community. So the library that we partner with, they took very seriously the need to make sure that whatever the packet said it is, that it is. So that was really important to them. And, you know, it is important to be respectful of the integrity of the seed and make sure we are packing the right things. But if you don't have those restrictions, and if you weren't working with a library and you had more freedom, you know, if you have great relationships with local farmers, they could save you seed, and you could use that. Again, that's a great way to minimize cost. And then there's also a U-pack option. So you could do jars of certain seed and let folks actually pack and label their own seeds, and that will save you a lot of time. Leverage your network. Truly, this has been such a popular program. We would have never expected it to been as popular as it is. So working with a network, again, the library system and volunteers, your master gardeners. We work closely with Clemson Extension, so whatever your local extension, Land Grant University is. Farm Bureau has been a great partner for us. Other nonprofits, compost and gardening companies, 4-H and FFA groups. In high schoolers, you know, a lot of high schools now, they need volunteer hours. So this is a really fun project for high schoolers to help out with. And then Lowe's and Home Depot, you know, the first workshop we did, I went to Lowe's and told them about the project and said, hey, can you donate some door prizes for us that we can, you know, market our workshops with? And they gave me 2 raised beds and a bunch of potting soil and other things. So never be afraid to ask these big box stores, because they're more times than not willing to help. So the results. So again, we haven't even been open 1 year yet. And so the seed packets checked out since opening day have been over 17,000. So when it comes to most popular and least popular, I think you probably could have guessed this: tomatoes, okra, basil, zinnia, summer squash. Also something I didn't write, but lavender was wildly popular. And some of our, I think you can tell these are just lesser known things: kohlrabi, cowpeas, tomatillos, turnips, and mustard greens. So I'm going to have to do some education campaigns this year to get people to try those, because I just don't think they know what they're missing out on. And just a cute little story from the picture on the left. This is when we knew, like, oh, this is exactly what we wanted from this program. There was a mother, and she has 3 little girls, and they live close to the Berea Library branch, and so they would come and get seeds all the time, and they were growing flowers. And then once they bloomed, every time they came to the library, they would bring their freshly cut flowers to give to the librarians. And so the librarians would just put it on top of the seed library. So every time we would go, there would just be like new flowers there. And it was just, you know, it's really building community, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. And also the library, the seed library now has an official library card as well. So, you know, I spent $1 to upgrade to make sure I have the seed library card. And that's it. And so this program has, you know, if you work for a conservation district, you know that it's amazing the number of people who don't know what a conservation district is. They don't know about us. And, you know, that was no different here in Greenville. And this program has really helped us reach new audiences. It's boosted our recognition around town, and it also has been a wonderful tool for me to talk to folks about other environmental issues, to talk about stormwater pollution, to talk about backyard conservation practices that can limit pollution in our waterways and soil health. So it's a great tool to talk about the programming that we do at conservation districts. And so that's all from me.
All right. Thank you, Shelby. That's such a creative and neat project that you've got going on there, and it's one that's going to be so easy to replicate around the country. Susie, I've loaded your slides, so when they come up on your screen, if you want to go ahead and take it from there.
All right. I think I have it up. Okay, everyone. So again, my name is Susie. And I'm going to be talking a little bit today about a CSA program, a community-supported agriculture program that we developed here in our region, especially in support of low-income individuals. So just a brief overview of what I'll talk about. I wanted to kind of set the stage for where we're located here in the Inland Empire in California and talk a little bit about the agriculture that exists here and some of our challenges. And then I'm also going to talk about our partner, Huerta Valle, who was a really key partner in executing the grant. And then I will also talk about the CSA program, how we implemented it, some of the logistics, the successes, the challenges, which there were, community engagement, and then I'm also going to kind of wrap up with some of the resulting outcomes of our partnership with Huerta Valle. So we're the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District. We serve about 1,300 square miles of San Bernardino and Riverside counties, and that is about an hour east of Los Angeles. And nowadays, this region is very urbanized. We've seen a lot of agricultural land lost to development for warehouses, for homes. The ports of Los Angeles and LA bring a lot of goods in through this area. But historically, the Inland Empire was a very prominent agricultural region with a lot of citrus, stone crops, and row crops in general. So today, our RCD really focuses on kind of 5 core programs, and that includes mitigation and habitat restoration, K-12 education in the schools throughout our pretty big region, so we don't get to them all. And then we are co-located with our NRCS federal partner, so we do program work with them. Then we have our urban agricultural program, and more recently we've been working in forestry and fire prevention here in our area. So this just shows kind of the area we serve. We have both mountain regions and then the valley to the south. And I just wanted to point out some of the areas that are still in agriculture, including this first photo shows Oak Glen, which is an apple growing community. We do still have a lot of citrus kind of throughout our district, despite issues with development pressures, but also the Asian citrus psyllid and invasive pest. And then in Chino, we have a decent amount of cows still, even considering that homes are really just butting up right against these farms now. And so a little bit about our partner, Huerta Valle. This image, I think, is a really good representation of what a lot of our region looks like, unfortunately, where there's a lot of homes, but you can kind of see on the right side of the photo the homes butt up immediately adjacent to warehouses. And then throughout you can see a little bit of green space, but really there's not a lot of opportunity for these individuals who are mostly lower income individuals to access open spaces. So the little area in red is Huerta Valle, the community garden. And below are just some photos kind of representing what the site looks like. And Huerta Valle began in 2015, and it was a partnership with the City of Ontario, Pitzer College, a local university, and the community. And they did this through a grant with Kaiser Permanente. And today, this now hosts 60 individual family plots where people can use the land to, plant their culturally significant foods or just food for their family. And then there's also on this site a 2.5-acre kind of intensive production area where it grows their produce to sell at markets and through the CSA program I'm going to talk about. And while sustainable food is a really big part of their mission, I think almost more importantly, their work focuses on community building and equity and having a space for local residents to come and kind of relax and participate in the outdoors. Here's just a few more photos. The top one is the Abejas program for children. They can come out on Saturdays and learn about farming and just do craft activities. And then below is some members of the community coming out to the site. So in 2017-18, we received the Urban Agriculture Conservation Initiative grant through NACD. And this grant really aims at supporting urban agricultural projects, specifically focused in underserved food desert regions. And so our grant goals were really to develop this low-income community-supported agriculture program where any member of the community could access this produce no matter what their situation was. And on top of this, we also worked to organize community nutrition workshops kind of in partnership with the produce they were receiving. And then I'm not going to really talk about this today, but we also were able to develop farmer workshops and really tap into some of the other urban agricultural projects in our region. So for those of you wondering what a CSA is, it stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And traditionally, this is a food production system that connects the consumers directly with their farmers. And usually that looks like a community member purchasing a share of the farm at the beginning of the season. So that could be like $300, and then that will get you a box of produce for the rest of the season. And this way, farmers can receive this income really early in the season, and they can invest that into their farm. And customers are provided then with produce throughout the year, either weekly, every other week, however it's set up. And the benefits of the CSA program, especially the benefits for the consumer, are that you receive weekly in-season produce. And in some cases, like we have a drop-off point here at our office, saves you from having to go grocery shopping, which is great. There's also the benefit of getting introduced to new fruits and vegetables. They do grow a lot of different culturally significant foods, a lot of Hispanic foods that, people maybe haven't tried before, so you really get to learn about new fruits and vegetables. Also the opportunity to visit the farm and participate in events and kind of be part of that community. And then just the added benefit of supporting your local ag industry. And so when we were looking to develop this program, there was already maybe 3 or 4 families enrolled in a program that wasn't really working that well. And part of the reason was because it was being run by volunteers. And so it was really hard to kind of commit to and meet those weekly delivery goals. So through the grant, we were able to hire a full-time CSA manager, Lucy, the one with her hands up in the bottom left picture. And she was really able to do a lot of the outreach and development of this program that volunteers just simply couldn't do. And so our target audience was primarily the residents and families living right around that actual agricultural plot of land. And we have continued to expand that, and I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. But originally through the grant, we were able to serve over 20 families. It kind of changed week to week, but an average over 20. And the other work behind this was kind of working with the farmers at Huerta de Valle to refine the growing season to reflect what the CSA actually needed, to make sure that year-round there was produce that community members would be wanting to look for in their boxes. And then we also were working with local farmers to participate in the CSA along with Huerta de Valle to kind of pull resources. And I think that's a big goal and something we want to continue working on. But one issue with that is this program in particular has kind of strict standards for organic produce. And so, we've been having a hard time finding other organic producers who kind of fit into the mold of what we're trying to do here. And so a little bit about how we set this up. So we had the full-time CSA coordinator, and that position really did all the legwork. So they harvested the produce, they prepared the boxes, cleaned it, prepared it. They advertised and outreached the program, and then they delivered all the produce. And in terms of how we did this low-income idea of a box, so we really wanted this to be accessible to everyone. Oftentimes, especially with organic produce, it can seem like certain community members are left out of the opportunity due to pricing. And so we set it up so that we were getting both full-price members who paid $25 for a box of produce. But the more full-price members we had, we'd also be able to then offer these affordable prices at $10 a box. And members, the way we had it set up, they could pay week by week. So we asked them to kind of, generally commit to being part of the program, but we didn't ask for money up front in order to not deter people from participating. And then, like I kind of just mentioned, new communities were targeted outside of the immediate area for people who would be able to purchase full price boxes, and that in turn allows us to subsidize some of these low-income boxes and help those community members. Here's just some examples of some of our outreach, so the flyer we use, but also as part of the boxes each week, we would include both nutritional facts about the produce that's included, but also recipes, and especially recipes for produce that you're maybe unsure of how to cook with, like fennel or something where it's not something you normally pick up at the grocery store. Some of the successes we've had with this program, I think, since in the past 2 years, we've been able to serve over 40 families with the CSA program. And with that comes the introduction of new produce and really nutritious produce to families. We've also provided over 200 community members with nutrition education, which I'll go into next. Below is a picture of one of our pickling events where we had a big turnout. We also have had a semi-consistent stream of income for the project, and then we've also been having the opportunity to further refine the program, which I think is a success in its own way, that we're able to continue this program year after year and continue to refine it. But we definitely have some challenges. I think the big one is by not enforcing a contract and not getting upfront payment, community members were a little bit more, kind of lackadaisical about if they came to get their box or not, because they would pay when they showed up. So that's kind of a hard one because we wanted to be able to allow everyone to participate, but we're also struggling with getting constant participation. We also had issues with CSA members who came to the farm to pick up their boxes, looking at their box and wanting to start switching out produce, saying, oh, well, I don't think I like fennel, so can you give me another head of lettuce, and vice versa. And that's really not the point of the CSA. At that point, they should just come and pick up the produce at the market that they would like to have. And the last thing is, it is a challenge for the way we have the pricing structure. It's not lucrative for someone who wanted to do this, as a business. The CSA program could be, but when you're subsidizing the low-income boxes, it's not super economical. So some of the improvements we made last year, we did develop a formal contract for CSA members. We don't really enforce this for lower income individuals, but we try to get at least 4 weeks to 8 weeks of payment beforehand and have a more set program. We've also began outreaching to more full cost members to again help bring in more low income families. And then still connecting with farmers, trying to grow the program. And then we also decided to close the CSA program from November to February. And we're very lucky here in Southern California. We can grow year-round, but we find that it kind of gets a little bit redundant during those months and a lot of the less popular produce. So we think it's a good opportunity to give the farmers a break, plan for next year, and make sure the CSA members are constantly impressed by what's coming in their boxes. So the other side of this was the community nutrition workshops, and really the goal of these were to engage community members to learn about nutrition, but then also to teach those who were enrolled in the CSA program how to use some of that produce that they were receiving. So the picture in the bottom left is one where we were doing an herbal remedies workshop and also drying herbs. And then the right side, we actually partnered with a local high school who had a culinary facility, and we brought some community members there to make an acorn squash dish and learn how to use that kind of produce. And then we did also work with a lot of partners. That was an important part of this project. I definitely want to call it the University of California Cooperative Extension. Their master food preservers were really integral into a lot of these nutrition programs. In the bottom right, they were doing a, on the farm site there is a wood oven, so we were doing pizzas with the master food preservers talking about making bread and dough for the pizza. They did a pickling workshop, so they were really active in this. The Master Gardeners were also a great partner, and then we did work with the Native American Health Network. They were really interested in helping support us with the kind of herbal remedies workshop. So in terms of some of our next steps where we're looking to go with this, we are still going to be expanding the CSA program and kind of continuing to reevaluate how to administer the low-income side of it, because that's ultimately our main goal and what we want this program to represent, but we need to figure out how to balance that. And then secondly, and very exciting for all of us, we have been acquiring a lot of new locations for urban ag. So again, down here where land is valued at, $1 million, $2 million for a few acres, it's really hard for farmers to access land if they didn't already have it or inherit it. And one way we've figured out how to kind of work around this system is to find publicly owned lands that are not being well managed, either due to lack of funding or just a vacant lot. And so as of last year, Huerta de Valle, our partner, they now have 3 additional public properties totaling over 40 acres that they're going to continue to farm and use for the CSA program. And the photo on the left, this year we also implemented in partnership with them a new farmer training program. And so the plot of land they're working there on the left that's looking kind of rough right now, they will be incubating some of the new farmer training members will be getting about a ½ acre to an acre each to start their farm enterprise. And then if it works for them, they'll eventually go and seek their own land. So that's very exciting. There's the picture in the middle shows the new community garden in Huerta Valley that's going to be similar to the one at the original Huerta de Valle site. And then for the Resource Conservation District, we've acquired a separate 40-acre property that's also a public property that was not being managed. And along with some of these partners, we're going to develop an urban agriculture project, as well as hopefully a nature center and some recreation opportunities to really continue to bring the community to these sites. And so I think some of my kind of wrap-up thoughts on this are, I feel like conservation districts can really play a major role in expanding and developing urban agriculture projects. I think both with our abilities to provide technical assistance, but also our ability to write for and apply for grants makes it a great partnership. And I also think in some areas, and I find that to be true here where we're located, that urban agriculture projects might be really the main solution and opportunity to connect residents with agriculture. For example, these kids at the bottom here, they live in that community with Huerta de Valle, but besides that, there's really not a lot of opportunity for them to see agriculture or to engage with agriculture unless they drive maybe 30 minutes outside of their home. So I think putting in these little urban ag projects throughout communities really will kind of serve as that connection point, especially for our youth. And then kind of last thought is that I feel like a CSA program is a really great way for community members to not just eat organic and nutritious produce, but really interact with their farmer, visit their farm, know where their food's coming from. So I think it's a really great way for that interaction to occur. And I think that's all I have for you guys. So I guess I'll pass it off to Deb for the Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Susie. And that's incredible. I mean, what you guys are doing with the garden and the CSA and the outreach, I love it. So let's see if we have other questions or comments about it. For our audience, I'm now opening up the chat room. For those of you who haven't done this, if you have a question or a comment, down in the lower left there's a small box. Type in what you want to ask or share, and then I'll read that out loud so we capture it in the audio recording and pass it on then to Susie and Shelby. Uh-oh, looks to me like we might have lost Shelby.
Yeah, I'm still here, though. I'm coming back.
Oh. All right, great. Let me get you, before we start that, I just noticed as I was reaching over, so I'll get you back so you can see the screen. Okay, from Kathleen Bradley, very impressive, thank you. And it looks like we have a number of other folks that are typing in. Let me ask a question or two while we're waiting for those to come in. Shelby, how did you folks advertise the startup of the seed library? Was it just through the library, or what was your outreach?
No, I mean, obviously the library helps because they have such a huge reach. But we wrote articles in the local newspaper. We made a TV appearance. We utilized social media, things like that.
Okay. Cool. So from Madison, we have, where were you able to order the custom seed packets for the seed library? Shelby, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, we did it through envelopes.com. So we designed them ourselves in-house using Adobe Illustrator, and then on envelopes.com you can, there's an option to customize them, and so we just uploaded the artwork and then they printed them for us.
That's cool. I've never heard of that. Okay, from Jamie, and this is for Susie. How did you go about purchasing the 40 acres for the district?
Sure. So actually where we were able to get that property, the Riverside County Parks and Open Space District out here owns a lot of land, and they manage a lot of land. But they had some budget cuts and were no longer able to manage this property, and actually closed it for a year or two to the public. And then they put out a request for proposal for an agency to take on the management for no cost, except that the management is expensive, but there's no cost for the actual land. And instead all they wanted was a work plan to show how we would use the site. And it's going to be both a mixture of restoring a stream ecosystem there and then developing agriculture and reopening the nature center there for community members. So the land was quote unquote free. It is just a lease though, we don't own it, but the management's going to be what will be more expensive.
And I'll add to that, is it like a long-term lease? Was there a time frame put on it?
Yeah, it's about 10 to 15 years and then potential for renewal. Okay. And so we're trying to extend that lease, and we're kind of working with the county to see if that would be an option. And so in the meantime, I think we're kind of limiting our investment in the management until we know that we can have it for longer.
Okay, great. I'm about to cough here. There we go. From the Olmsted SWCD, again for Susie, is there a long-term sustainability plan for the CSA after the grant funding is depleted?
Sure. So the grant funds were depleted as of 2018. So we have gone 1 year without the NACD grant funding, and Huerta de Valle was able to secure a separate source of funding, but about half of this person's time is paid through income from the CSA and market, and the other half is grant funded. So long-term sustainability, I think, would really be for this to get to where, at a minimum, it can fund the market position, hopefully make a profit on top of that, but, you know, with the goal being more about serving community members, ultimately, I just think if we could get that CSA manager funded fully, we would be pretty well off.
All right, cool. I've got a couple more questions while we're waiting to see if any others are coming in. And in the meantime, I'm first going to switch over to contact information for Shelby and Susie in case anyone wants to follow up with our speakers afterward. Oh, I see from Abigail. Shelby, did you mention that there is a charge to upgrade a library card to include the seed library? And if so, how much do you charge?
So no, there's not. There's no additional fee to use the seed library at all. Any library card will get you that. But what I meant by that was that the library card, they have different designs. When you go to get your library card for the first time, there are usually about 6 different designs that you can choose from. And now one of the featured designs is the seed library. So that's what I meant by that. But there's no, so I wanted to change my library card so that I could rep the seed library all the time, and that's why I paid $1. But no, there's no a charge at all to use the seed library.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Looks like Abigail's doing a follow-up, so in the meantime, while we wait for that to come through, Shelby, back to you. The workshops that you do, what's the typical turnout, and how do you find the speakers?
So it varies. So just on Tuesday, for example, there was a seed starting workshop, and we had about 40 people show up to it. So that was a really good turnout. And again, when we did our first one, that was like Intro to Square Foot Gardening, that was also a really large turnout. And some of them, when we had the hydroponic growing, that had, maybe 10 people. So it all depends on the subject and, if it's raining out. And I think you all probably have that experience when you offer free programming. There's no guarantee that the people who registered are actually going to turn up. But we've done really well. It seems like Greenville is very into growing. So we've not really had a problem with turnout. But in terms of finding partners, I've been leaning on my existing relationships in the community. We had a farmer this week do the seed starting that we just have a good relationship with, other nonprofits in the community, and then we lead some ourselves. So like I said, Lynn, my coworker, she actually led the Square Foot Gardening class, and then myself and Kirsten, our district manager, led the soil health one. So there, I would say half of them we actually lead ourselves, and then half of them we just kind of lean on partners. And sometimes because it's become such a popular program, we have people actually contacting us about being able to lead one. So it's not been a trouble at all to find them.
Okay, cool. And it looks like we've had a couple more questions come in about the workshops. First, a comment from Abigail about the seed library is, wow, thank you, this idea is wonderful. Then from Ashley, is there a plan with the 2020 workshops? I think you mentioned one about seed saving, to have those taking from the seed library to help replenish the seed library.
Yeah, so we get this question a lot, and so we do not allow people to bring them back to us. So if individuals in the community have saved seed, we actually don't do that because, with cross-pollination and all these other things, we can't guarantee that what they bring back to us is indeed that specific variety. And that is something that the library has been, and us too, like I said, we want to maintain the seed integrity and make sure that what we're giving people is what it is. I have had a local farmer who's very experienced give me some seed, and so kind of it depends where they're located and if they know what they're doing in terms of spacing from other varieties. But for the most part, we do not accept anyone to bring back seed. They just take them, and we do not want them back. So we just rely on the donations and, again, the wholesale account to keep it replenished.
All right. One more for you, Shelby, and then I also have one for Susie, and I see another participant is typing in. From Stu, Shelby, has the attendance at your workshops grown, stayed constant? Are new people showing up, or the same people all the time?
It's definitely new people. I mean, if you remember my slide, each workshop is pretty different, where, they're all subjects that you can relate back to the seed library, but they're all incredibly different. So it's rare that we have all the same people, and it stayed pretty consistent. Some are, like I said earlier this week, there were 40 people there, and again, I think it's just the time of the year. People, it's about that time where people are thinking about starting season doors, so it was just a timely workshop, but it's kind of stayed pretty consistent.
Okay. And then Kathleen's question, this is great. It actually segues into the one I had for Susie. So Kathleen says, I participate in City Fresh CSA in Cleveland, Ohio, which is similar. They started as organic, but have had a hard time getting enough organic produce from local farmers. And to build on that, Susie, my question is, do you or how do you oversee the organic requirement?
Sure. So, yeah, I guess to answer the first question, I think that's a struggle everywhere in terms of finding organic produce. And one way we've been kind of going about this, so for one, we're kind of just at this point trying not to grow the CSA too big until we can ensure that we've got the produce that we want to supply. So that means right now the produce is being grown at Huerta, that we know the farmers, we're out there often. And then the second part to that is through their new farmer training program and those incubator plots where Huerta Valle is going to be leasing land very cheaply to farmers. The expectations there too are that everyone grow organic. And so our goal is to then use those farmers who are kind of these new trainees incubating their farm, that we would give them a market to sell through the CSA, and in turn be able to grow our CSA more because now we have more farmers. That hasn't gone into place yet, but that's kind of our hope for growing a little bit more organic options so that we can keep this going. And I do think with that produce specifically, I think the Huerta Valle produce, we can do this kind of $10, $25 concept because it is a nonprofit. But for the farmers who are trying to start a business and are going to be selling to us, we'll probably need to do full price. And then, Deb, sorry, can you remind me of your question following that?
For overseeing, and I think you kind of covered the organic requirement there.
Oh, sure. So the overseeing, even Huerta Valle isn't certified, and that's in part because of, how long the process can take and the expense it can take to get certified when you're only operating a couple acres. So at this point, it's mostly self-certifying, using farmers that we know and observe and know their practices. But yeah, we don't have any official certification that we're looking for.
Okay, cool. And then I don't see other questions coming in, but I do have one last one for Susie, and we'll wrap up. It's similar to the question I asked Shelby. How do you find the speakers and resources for the workshops that you do?
Sure. So I think kind of like Shelby said, it's a lot through just our kind of existing partnerships. We've been working a lot with the Master Gardeners previously, but I think through them we really learned more about the Master Food Preservers. I had not worked with them prior to looking for support for these nutrition workshops. And then other partners, we've kind of been connected some actually. I think the local universities are usually a good resource for knowing other community partners. So I think I was connected to like the Indian Health Network and some of the other groups actually through one of our local universities.
Okay, great. And then here's a comment from Stu, who I should let you all know is our NASCA representative on NACD's Urban and Community Subcommittee. And he says to both of you for figuring out a way to keep your program sustainable. That's a huge challenge, and you guys are doing great for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to delay just a few seconds to see if this final question comes in. There we go. And we'll make this the last one. And while you're responding, Shelby, I'll be switching things over here. But so for Shelby, for places like Lowe's and Home Depot, did you have to provide a request on letterhead, and did it take time for them to fill the request?
So it's funny because there's actually been like a lack of consistency. So one Lowe's store I went to, I was just immediately put in touch with the service manager, and no, like he just helped me choose things right then and there. And then I went to a Home Depot not long after that, and they requested a letterhead. So there hasn't been a consistency with that. I think it's like if you just happen to talk to the right person, maybe it moves a bit quicker. But that's from Raquel, so I can find out an answer because I know our county rec also gets lots of donations from them, and that would be worth asking them as well what that process has been like.
All right, cool. Well, with that, looks like we're, oops, there's one more, and I can't help it. I can't resist it. From Jamie, our experience with asking for donations varied. The larger box stores usually required a more formal donation request, and local businesses were more informal.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably pretty common. Thank you, Jamie. All right, with that, I want to say a huge thank you to both Shelby and Susie, especially for the two of you stepping in, because I think as our participants may recall, our January speaker didn't pan out, and Shelby and Susie volunteered to do this for us, and it's a dynamic program. It's really exciting to see what both of you are doing. So thank you again for willing to do this and giving great presentations.
No problem. Thank you, everyone.
For our members, just a quick reminder, as usual with the wrap-up, check out our website for various resources there. And then we have an Urban and Community Conservation Network on Facebook where we post different things that we come across as staff and committee members. And if you have something you'd like to share, feel free to send me a one-line statement and a photo, and we can get that up there for you too. And then finally, I invite everyone to join us next month on February 20th. We'll be featuring our sponsor, the Scott's Miracle Grow Foundation, on their various research on outdoor water savings tools and resources. So I'll get that information out through the advance notice, likely sometime next week. And with that, once again, thanks